Welcome to Create Your Own Reality, a show about hope, inspiration, and encouragement. A program that will feature guests and topics that may inspire you to think and stretch your beliefs about what is real and how you can create miracles in your life. Your hosts, Badeish Lange and Pauline Nortness. Welcome to Create Your Own Reality. I'm your host, Badeish Lange, and my co-host, Pauline Nortness, is on vacation. Today's discussion is about the major astrological patterns forming at the end of June, and that will have a lasting effect through July, August, and into 2011. My guest is Mark Dodich, a nationally known astrologer, and Mark will comment on several dramatic sets of astrological configurations and give us some insights as to what they mean and some of the effects on national and the personal level. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Now, can you give us a little bit of background on how you found the field of astrology and, something like that?
Well, the joke in astrology when you go out to all the conferences is that you don't go find astrology, it comes and looks for you. And so when I was in college, I had some friends who were very much into astrology, and I kind of had to learn the language just to kind of hang out with my friends. I wasn't all that interested in it. But I started studying in sociology, how you have to write theses and reports and that. And I started studying these spiritualist camps and things of that nature. And over the years, it kind of just snowballed, and it's the one thing that stayed with me in life as everything else fell away. And so it just kept coming and coming and coming, and finally you surrender to it.
Well, it sounds like it was a calling.
It was. It just seems like, there's certain things that you just pick up and you just know how to do.
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example. I studied palmistry for a long time, and I still couldn't do palmistry. I can barely get through it. But astrology or tarot, it's like, boy, I just grasped it right from the beginning. It was natural.
Do you think you might have done this before?
I do.
Is that a feeling that you might have?
I took a group of people to Egypt a couple of years ago to, meditate at Karnak's temple and all that. And they showed us the place that the astrologers hung out up there, way at the top of the gate at Luxor. And for me, I looked up there and I go, that explains why I like high places, because every time I go hiking or something, I always want to go up someplace that's above everybody else. And it just struck me when I was in Egypt that, I was one of the priests that hung out up at top, not around all the other people, and watched the stars from up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's been very gratifying, hasn't it?
Totally, totally. It's such a tool of understanding, and people have so many misconceptions. They think astrology is what you read in the newspaper in the funny section.
Exactly.
And it's such a broad field that you could study it your whole life and just scratch the surface of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's an ancient science that goes back, 35,000 years, something like that?
Well, we have papyrus documents that are 4,500 years old, and prior to that there is even astrological symbolism in cave paintings and things like that. So we know it's at least 4,500 years old in our what we'll call our more or less modern form.
Yeah. Well, you do, as part of your practice, you do astrotopography. And I think people would love to know the value of that. I personally think it is so cool and have used it. So why don't you share with us what that is?
It's one of the unique branches of astrology that deals with location, and many people say, this place isn't working for me. Where can I get a better career, or where can my love life be better, or where can I even just go on vacation where I can tune in on spiritual levels? Or even people that don't want to move say, I'll give you an example. I've got a publishing line on the East Coast, and I have written articles on the West Coast for a publisher on the East Coast, and they publish it on the West Coast. and so I've found that these zones, whether you use them by moving or traveling or just by doing your marketing there for business people, really can help. I call it turn up the volume. So you want to turn up the volume. You're going to live under a Jupiter line. That brings out your teacher, your philosopher. Somebody wants to publish a book, a writer, for example.
Right.
They would maybe want to either live or at least publish their book under maybe a Mercury or a Jupiter line because they rule writing and publishing.
Yeah.
So it's a way for people to find a place to, we'll call it, amp up their personal power in the world.
You know, I got something funny to tell you about that. I had that done years ago and found out that my hot spot, my sun line, was in the center of the Grand Canyon, and my husband was one canyon over. It was like a low up there, you know, and it was Phoenix, actually.
Yeah.
But I liked the Northwest, and I decided to stay here instead of melt down in Phoenix. So.
But you could still use the Phoenix energy either to travel down there periodically or to write articles for publications down there, things of that nature.
It hasn't quite called me yet, but I'm sure it will.
Well, you know, I have relationship lines in the middle of the United States, like St. Louis, Kansas, and I have no desire, no offense to the people who live there, but I have no desire to live in St. Louis, but I've got great relationship lines there. But, you know, I do consultations all over the world, and every time I get people calling me from the middle of the country, it's relationship readings, because I have relationship readings lines there.
Absolutely.
And I've also had numerous romantic relationships with women who were from Wichita or St. Louis or Chicago or places like that, because that's where my relationship energy is.
Cool.
So sometimes it comes to you.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, I wanted to jump in and talk about what's coming towards us here pretty soon, actually, this weekend. But before we get into the alignments, I'd like to have you share with the public what it is that a solar and a lunar eclipse means in as brief language or understandable language as possible.
Well, and so a lunar eclipse is basically a full moon where the light gets blocked out. Let's just leave it that simple. And lunar eclipses are full moons, and just like the joke of full moons, people act out crazily. A lunar eclipse pulls you apart to put you back together in a better way. And so it activates your emotions is basically what it does. And a solar eclipse is a new moon, where obviously the solar light is blocked out. And that is saying what is coming from way down deep inside you that is wanting to get out. And of course, our personality think, oh, I want a new relationship or a new job or all that stuff. At a solar eclipse, you want to take some private, quiet time to say, it's not what does my ego chattering voice want, but what is it that's really calling for me to come out? Now, I use 3 months on either side of an eclipse as its effective range, which is a good general explanation. So, you know, we have eclipses twice a year, so we're kind of always getting it on one level or another.
Well, by your calculations, we're in it right now.
Big
with
time.
the solar and the lunar eclipse. So that's kind of interesting. And I think a lot of people are feeling it. At least my clients are saying, what's going on? I'm expecting something. They can't put it into words, but their lives are reflecting huge changes. You know, and that's what it means, right? Big change.
And what's important to know is eclipses spend about 1.5 years in the same polarity of signs. So if everyone went back and thought about July 2009, that's when the eclipses started occurring in the signs Cancer and Capricorn. And I don't care what a person's sun sign is, we're all made up of all 12 signs when we cast a chart. And if you remember last summer, at the lunar eclipse, Michael Jackson and Farrah Fawcett and Ed McMahon died. And at the solar eclipse, Walter Cronkite died. And these were people that represented a generation or a body of energy. And so this summer, 2010, is like the flip side of the coin of last summer. So I would urge everybody to look at how are they dealing with emotions and nurturing, and emotional boundaries has been a big issue for a lot of people that I've seen.